What if I told you that one of Europe's most brutal killing sprees was never solved? Not because there were no clues, but because the truth was buried on purpose. For years, the mystery of the Brabant Killers haunted Belgium, a group of masked gunmen responsible for a series of violent attacks that left 28 dead and over 20 others injured. They struck between 1982 and 1985, executing their terrifying plan with chilling precision, and then, just as quickly, vanished from the scene, leaving behind nothing but a trail of unanswered questions. Their targets were not just criminals or people who got in their way. No, the Brabant Killers showed no mercy. They murdered innocent civilians, leaving entire families broken, entire communities living in fear. The first crime, seemingly small, happened in August of 1982. A grocery store in Maubeuge was attacked, but at that time, it seemed like nothing more than a random robbery. There was just one injury. The police thought it was a robbery, gone wrong. But then, the violence escalated. A weapons store in Wavre was attacked on September 30th, 1982. One person was killed, and 3 others were wounded. The criminals took what they wanted, but this time, they left behind a message. They weren't here just to steal. They were here to cause pain, to hurt, to kill. It was just the beginning. By the time 1983 came around, the attacks had become more frequent, more brutal, more unpredictable. It wasn't just one supermarket or one store, it was everywhere. The Delhaize supermarkets were a common target. The killers would storm in, dressed in masks, carrying firearms stolen from police armories. They didn't hesitate. The moment they entered, shots rang out. They would kill anyone who happened to be in their path, and often they didn't even stop to steal. They killed for the sake of killing. No explanation, no reason, just terror. It became clear that this wasn't some common criminal group. There was something more, sinister at play. There were whispers that the crimes were not random. There were murmurs about military operations, secretive agendas, theories that the killers were not acting alone, that there was something bigger happening behind the scenes. By the time the most infamous attack occurred on November 9th, 1985 in Aalst, the killers had left their mark on the nation's soul. The attack was the bloodiest yet. 8 people were killed and 9 more were injured. Among the victims was a 9-year-old child who was waiting in a car outside the supermarket, caught in the gunfire. His death was the breaking point. It wasn't just another casualty in a war on crime. It was the death of innocence, the final reminder that no one was safe. The nation was in shock, the people terrified. No one knew who these killers were, and the police had no leads. After that day, the killings stopped. Without warning, without explanation, the killers vanished. But the question lingered. Why? Why had they stopped? Theories poured in. Some speculated that the killers had been taken down by the police, that one of the gang members had been shot in the Aalst attack and died from his injuries. Others argued that they had simply left the country, that they had escaped to start a new life. But the truth was that no one knew. The police continued their investigations, digging through forests, unearthing bodies, hoping for any clue that might lead them to the killers, but nothing ever surfaced. The case went cold. However, the silence wasn't complete. Theories about the killers' motivations began to grow wilder and wilder. There were whispers of conspiracy theories, that the killers were somehow connected to secret organizations within the military. Some pointed fingers at NATO's clandestine operations, a network of stay-behind forces designed to defend Europe in the event of a Soviet invasion. But despite several inquiries by the Belgian parliament, there was no evidence to support this theory. The investigation faced major roadblocks. Key intelligence agencies refused to cooperate, leaving many people wondering if the truth was being deliberately hidden. Could the killers have been involved in something more dangerous, more politically charged? Or were they just a group of ruthless criminals performing these heinous acts without any other reason but to cause chaos and fear? Then came the pink ballets, another disturbing theory. A theory that tied the murders to elite sex parties involving high-ranking officials. The theory suggested that key figures, including powerful politicians, businessmen, and police officers, were involved in these secretive parties, and some believe that the Brabant Killers had been hired to silence those who knew too much. The connection between some of the victims and these alleged parties only deepened the mystery. Were these murders the result of a dark, twisted conspiracy? Or were they simply the work of a group of violent criminals who had taken advantage of a society ripe for corruption? In the years that followed, the police tried desperately to uncover new leads. The investigation seemed endless. Weapons were found in forests, new witnesses came forward, and the possibility that the killers might still be out there, walking free, became even more terrifying. But still, the case remained unsolved. New evidence was discovered, including the notebook of two children who had jotted down the license plates of cars near the scene of the crime. This evidence was ignored for years, but it led to the reopening of the case in 2025. For a moment, it seemed like there might be a breakthrough. Could the killers finally be identified? Could the families of the victims finally get the closure they so desperately needed? But still, there were no answers. As the years passed, more and more theories emerged, and the case became less about finding the killers and more about uncovering the truth. Was there a cover-up? Was there a conspiracy so vast that it could never be revealed? And if so, was justice ever really meant to be served? In 2024, after over 40 years, the Belgian authorities declared the investigation closed. The case, once thought to be the most terrifying murder spree in Belgium's post-war history, was closed, leaving families of the victims heartbroken and frustrated. But in January 2025, the case was reopened again, following a breakthrough that could possibly identify the killers. But for many, it's too little, too late. The questions remain unanswered. The mystery remains unsolved. The killers may never be caught, and the families of the victims may never get the justice they deserve. For some, this case is a reminder of the darkness that lurks in the shadows, a darkness that cannot be explained. And for others, it's a testament to how far the truth can be hidden, how easily justice can be buried beneath layers of lies, corruption, and conspiracy. This is the story of the Brabant Killers, a tale of terror, unanswered questions, and an unsolved mystery that has haunted Belgium for more than 4 decades. If you're still wondering about the truth behind these killings, if you believe that justice should be served, don't forget to like this video. Let the world know that the story of the Brabant Killers still matters. And if you want to dive deeper into these dark, unsolved mysteries, subscribe for more true crime stories and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the truth will ever be revealed? Or will it remain buried forever? Because sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that are still waiting to be uncovered.